I suppose in some ways you could say that my Aunt Bridget was a little mad. Certainly many people thought so. She wore a flaming red blouse, a billowing black skirt, a pair of men's boots, and she told stories to children. It was night when I met her. I was sitting on the pavement outside Miss Mack's sweet shop in Mary Street when she appeared round the corner carrying all her possessions in a paper bag. She asked who I was, and when I told her, she said, "I'm your Aunt Bridget." In her youth, my father said, Aunt Bridget was known as a very respectable girl. She went to Mass regularly, was educated in a convent, and never interrupted when her elders and betters were engaged in serious conversation. When she reached the age of 40, however, she took what my father described as a desperate turn for the worst. No one knows how it happened, but one day she looked at herself in the mirror and said, "No." And the following day she changed her clothes, bought herself a pair of men's boots, and announced that from now on she was going to wander the roads of Ireland and tell stories to children. She kept her word, and the stories she told were magic. There was the joyous story of a young girl who found a butterfly who had lost its colours. The girl painted new colours on the butterfly, and the butterfly flew away to create a rainbow over the city. And listening to my aunt, I could see that rainbow. It arced its way through the autumn sky, and I could see its reflection in my aunt's eyes. Oh, my aunt could tell a story all right and leave it hanging there at the end to make you wonder at the mystery of it. And there were other stories too, like the time she saw a woman buried in ice, or the time she saw a tree walking along the road, its branches filled with a myriad of clouds and the leaves glittering with blue stars. And she thought to herself, "Now, what's a tree doing walking along the road when it could just as easily fly?" For trees could fly when they were not standing still and holding the world together with their roots. Her technique was simple. The stories were true and filled with wonder. Not the kind of wonder that would be understood by an adult, but a child certainly. My aunt had faith in children. You didn't have to tell them that the world rested on the back of a giant turtle. Any child could see that. And that's why the world wobbled all the time, and you had earthquakes and plagues and famine and whooping cough and chicken pox and measles. If it wasn't for the trees who held the whole thing together with their roots, the world would have collapsed years ago and sunk into an abyss. My aunt said so, and she was right. She said the sky wasn't always blue either. It could be any colour you wanted it to be. She once saw a pink sky and she liked it so much she kept it that way for a week, in spite of people telling her she was mad. Children didn't think she was mad. The sky belonged to my aunt, and when she'd finished with it, she'd pass it on to them, and they could paint it any colour they liked. When my aunt wasn't telling stories to children, she made children's clothes, and she made dolls. Paper dolls from newspaper and glue she'd prepared herself. You could see it bubbling in the pot that hung precariously over the fire in the backyard of her house in Evergreen Street. She stood tall, she held a large pot stick in her hand, and as she stirred the glue, I could hear her singing softly to herself, "If I was a witch now, I could change the world." But she wasn't a witch. She was my lone Aunt Bridget, an artist, a storyteller, and a lover of children. When she died, the sky turned a bright pink over Cork, and it remained like that for a very long time.
My father gave me seeds to sow, and when the seeds began to grow, was like a basin full of snow. And when the snow began to melt, 'twas like a soldier without a belt. When the belt began to conquer, 'twas like a ship without an anchor. Airy, ory, iggery, home, my father gave me seeds to sow. And when the ship began to sail, 'twas like a bird without a tail. And when the bird began to fly, 'twas like an eagle in the sky.